So let us do one quick example of a neural network. So we will have inputs and weights and bias terms, and this is how a neural network will be defined. So let's say my inputs are 1 and -1. So my first term would be 1 into 1 times plus -2 into -1 plus the bias term 1, right? 1 times 1 plus -2 times -1 plus the bias term 1. So the output is 4. Then there is the activation function, that is 1 by 1 plus e to the power minus z. So z is 4. So that is 1 by 1 plus e to the power minus 4, which is whatever 0.98. So the output of this particular neuron is going to be 0.98. And similarly, if this is -2, then the output of this neuron is going to be 0.12. Then you may have weights there and their activations there, so you can compute the outputs there, you can compute the outputs there. So far, so good. Now, if I have a different set of inputs, so here I had the output 0.62, 0.83. So you can say that this function from 1 comma -1 is computing the output 0.62, 0.83. Similarly, if I have a different input like 0, 0, let's say the function is computing 0.51, 0.85. So in this very small example, tiny example, you can say it's a function from r square to r square, and the function from 1 minus 1 is 0.62, 0.83, the function from 0, 0 is 0.51, 0.85. And you can say that a different set of parameters will define a different function. So I have a function and I have the parameters for it, which are all the weights and all the bias terms. Now, I can think of it as matrix computations, and this is an important step, and we will stop here after this. So this is a very important step. You can say that this particular neuron is 1 comma -2, and this particular neuron is -1 comma 1. And what is the computation I am having when my input is 1 comma -1? My input, it's 1 in times 1 plus -1 times -2. Similarly, it's -1 times 1 plus 1 times -1. So basically, you can think of it as matrix multiplication. Now, I would pause here. This is an important step, because at least I get very confused with linear algebra. How many of you have taken a linear algebra course? A fair number of you. So that is good. So you will have an easier time visualizing this. But for others, this is the time that you just memorize this and move on. So you can think of the first layer of neurons as a W matrix, where each row represents one neuron. Each row represents the weights of one neuron. And finally, I am going to multiply it with the input 1 minus 1. So then if I compute the row times column and take the sum, I will exactly compute the weighted sum of inputs. But of course, I have to also add the bias terms. So I will add the bias term separately. So before the activation, all the computation of a layer of neurons, not one, but the layer of neurons, can be represented as Wx plus B. And it would give me an output again as the output form, which is in all the outputs of neurons put together. So this 4 comma -2 is the output of neurons before activation function for the whole layer. So each layer is nothing but some matrix multiplication and a bias addition. And then I can add nonlinearity on top of it, which will be nothing but adding nonlinearity on 4 and -2. So that will give me the output. So technically, one full layer can be represented as parameters Wi, W1, B1, or second layer W2, B2, ith layer Wi, Bi. And the function that is being computed is nonlinearity on top of Wix plus Bi. And what is X? Well, X is the input from the previous layer. So technically, the ith layer is computing nonlinearity over, or sigma over, Wi Ai minus 1 plus bi, where ai minus 1 is the output of the previous layer. And so the whole neural network is computing y equal to fx, which is basically taking x, multiplying it with w1, adding b1, nonlinearity, then taking this, multiplying it with w2, adding bias b2, adding nonlinearity, and so on and so on and so on. And because now we have cast the whole neural network as a sequence of matrix multiplications and additions, there is something called a graphical processing unit, a GPU, which is very important in gaming, that can speed up these matrix operations using parallel computation. And this is what led to the major speed up that deep learning algorithms achieved. Why? Because of the gaming softwares, the gaming hardwares actually, not gaming software, because the gaming hardwares, NVIDIA had to speed up a lot of the physical computation, physical manipulation, right? You, in video games, you have characters, you have gravity, they shoot, so the projectile computation has to happen and so on and so forth. There is a lot of real computation that needs to happen in terms of the XYZ coordinates or XY coordinates, right? And all of that typically got done using matrix computation, and moreover, because you needed to do this fast, because gaming was a big business and is still a big business. You know, every year I have at least one student who has a big fat laptop, and I ask him, why do you have such a heavy laptop? And the answer is gaming. This big heavy laptop is stronger than most, you know, computers that, you know, you buy, which are sitting computers. They don't, non-laptops, desktops, and they are very powerful hardware they have. So because these gaming required this kind of a computation again and again and again, they said, look, we can't optimize it in the software at all, we'll have to just make specialized hardware for it. And they created what is called the graphical processing unit, the GPU. The idea was that it's a graphics card of some kind which will really speed up these kinds of computations, and at the core of it, they could just do matrix multiplication very fast. It was just hardware to do a lot of matrix multiplications and additions. That's it. So if you can do this very fast, and if a neural network just requires some of these to be applied successively, then you can think of the full matrix computation to be done in unit time, assuming you have enough memory in your GPU. And even if you do not have enough memory in your GPU, you can think of, you know, one matrix multiplication as divided into two matrix multiplications or four matrix multiplications or so on and so forth, because these are independent operations, because each set of weights are different. So you just divide the weight matrix and send one part of the weights to one GPU and the other part of the weights to the same GPU after a little bit of time or whatever it is. So therefore, what started happening is that this forward propagation, this computing the output of one layer, did not require too many additions and multiplications in terms of the amount of time. It only required one large matrix to be multiplied in unit time. And that really sped up the neural network computation. So earlier, where neural network was somewhat slower, now all these things could be done incredibly fast. So I have my students who sometimes compare the CPU version of neural network versus the GPU version of neural network, and they can get 10 times and sometimes even more speed up on the computation. So things are much faster, at least one order of magnitude faster, but even it might get even better, because GPUs have now started to become even better and better and better, because the deep learning finances, or the deep learning market is bigger than the gaming market. So now NVIDIA has even more incentive. And by the way, NVIDIA was a good company, but now it has become like a great company. Like NVIDIA is at the core of AI. They have not done any AI in life, or at least in until the last 3-4 years. They were a gaming company, they were a hardware company, but now NVIDIA is in the middle of all this AI revolution, because everybody had to use their hardware, their GPUs, because they were the ones who created these GPUs ahead of time because of gaming, and so their GPUs got used in all this. And the first person who used those GPUs was somebody sitting in Toronto. And he recognized, and this is Alex, who his last name I can't pronounce, starts with a K, Krzyzewski or something. He and his advisor Jeff Hinton, but Alex was the guy who basically came up with the idea that can we not use graphical processing units to compute deep learning, right, to create deep learning. And so his code could use that hardware and could train much better, therefore, and therefore he got massive reductions in errors on the image data set. That was a major challenge data set for the community, and that is what sort of caused the whole revolution, right. So, I mean, NVIDIA has become so central that when PM Narendra Modi was interested in learning more about artificial intelligence, he did not call Jeff Hinton, he did not call Andrew Ng, he did not call the CEO of Google or Microsoft or their AI heads. He called Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, to talk about AI. So, and Jensen was honest. He said that he was a nice guy. The point is, he realizes who he is. He also realizes he's in the middle. He is making the most of it. He is getting NVIDIA from wherever it was, which is good, to a great company. All of that is awesome. And he also recognizes the importance that NVIDIA plays, of the role that NVIDIA plays in the context of AI. Okay. So this is a small story, but let's come back to the topic at hand. We were trying to classify an image into a digit, okay? And now we have basically created our neural network. This is the input layer. Input layer was 16 cross 16, so 256 dimensional layer, input of zeros and ones, and eventually we want to produce an output. And we have discussed that we want to produce an output which is a probability distribution which is 10 dimensional. For now. Now, unfortunately, if you see the way we have organized our computation, these are sigmoids. They may output any number between 0 and 1. They don't have to be normalized to 1 for the different 10 outputs. But more importantly, they may not be sigmoids. They may be tan H's, they may be ReLUs, they may be anything in the middle, because we can't be married to a certain activation function. We want to create the general version of the neural network. So what do we do? Okay? And so the general approach that most neural network designers take is that they say we will let that computation be in any general form. So it could be any number between minus infinity to infinity as the output of the neural network. We will assume that. But then at the end, we will put in a specialized layer to convert that representation into the output representation, right? So suppose my general representation is Z1, Z2, Z3 up to Z10 or Z0, whatever, and I want to convert the Z1 into Y1, a Z2 into Y2, and a Z3 into Y3 such that this Y is the probability distribution. Then I have to think about this non-linearity sigma, which would achieve it, right? What should be that sigma function? So ordinarily we will put in a sigmoid, and if we put in a sigmoid, y1 would be between 0 and 1, y2 would be between 0 and 1, y3 would be between 0 and 1, but it may not necessarily sum to 1, and moreover zi's may not be easy to interpret because they are coming from some complex combination of the network, and we don't know what is going on and why is it producing a large number, right? Well, we still don't know whatever happens. But let's say we want to enforce that these probabilities sum to 1. Then it's not very hard to do this, and the way we are going to do this is what is called the softmax layer. And in the softmax layer, we recognize that zi's can be positive or negative. But we want to say that if it is a higher number, then it should lead to a higher probability. So what function could we use such that the number which is between positive, which is either positive or negative, becomes only positive, because probabilities can only be positive? What function could we use? And which also says that higher zi means higher output. What function can we use? Exponent. Very simple. So we will just do e to the power z. So when we do e to the power z, if z1 was small, we will get a small e to the power z1, z2 was larger, it will get larger e to the power z2. If it is negative, it will still be positive. If it is positive, it is positive. Moreover, we want these numbers to sum to 1. So what can we do? Normalize. So just add them and then divide, right? So send it back and divide. So that creates our y1. And this function is called the softmax function. Okay. So whenever you see a softmax function, assume that lots of inputs are coming between minus infinity to infinity, and they become converted into a probability distribution of the same dimensionality. That's the job of the softmax function. And moreover, you may ask, why is it called the softmax function? And the answer is simple. You know, we essentially want to do max. What do we want to say? We want to say that output the digit which has the highest z1, or highest zi. That is what we want to do. But eventually, we can still do that. We can still actually do the max function there. There is nothing wrong with the max function. Even though it is not differentiable completely, we can do what is called subgradients, and we can even differentiate it. But softmax is a differentiable version. It's a softer version of the max function. We are not simply saying that you are the max. We are saying you are 0.8 the max, you are 0.2 the max, and so on. So it's sort of like a softmax, softer version of the max. It is still monotonic and it is non-local, because the softmax output depends on all zi's, not just the individual